Hello everyone, my name is Sarah, I am over 40 years old, and I recently married my husband Tom. Tom has a son from a previous marriage, Alex, who is in his early 20s. Alex is an intelligent and educated young man who moved with us to finish his studies and quickly became a welcome part of our blended family. It's not always easy to adjust to this new life, but over time, we have all managed to make ourselves at home. Today, I want to share a story that is dear to me. The story of a day that was supposed to be simple, but turned out to be unforgettable. Let me take you back to a sunny Saturday morning. Tom had left early for a weekend work trip, leaving Alex and me alone. Over the next few days, I had my favorite playlist on and decided to make some tasks around the house. The sunlight was coming through the windows, casting a warm glow, and it seemed like the perfect day to tidy up. I chose a casual outfit, a light tank top, and a mini skirt, something that would allow me to move easily, and was comfortable to spend the day cleaning. I knew that Alex was home, but he usually slept in on the weekends, so I thought I had a few hours before I saw him, humming and walking to the music. I walked around the living room, dusting the shelves and wiping down the surfaces, blissfully unaware that he was watching me. Suddenly, I felt a presence behind me. I turned around and found Alex standing at the entrance of the room, leaning against the door. He was looking at me with a look I had not seen before, an almost curious and surprised expression. I gave him a warm hug, smiling, the small hint of shyness that had taken over me. "Good morning, Alex," I said in a cheerful voice. He blinked as if returning to reality and finally managed to sketch a small smile. "Good morning," he responded, but his eyes lingered a little longer than usual, scanning the room and then coming back to rest on me. I felt like he wanted to say something, but he remained silent, watching me while I went back to my chores. I felt like he was following me with his eyes, and for reasons I couldn't specify, I felt a flutter in my stomach. Maybe it was just the silence of the house or the way the morning light softened everything, but something in that moment felt different, like we were sharing a private world that was just ours. As I dusted the top shelves, I noticed he had come closer a little longer, his gaze fixed on me as if he were seeing me for the first time. I felt my cheeks grow warm under his gaze, but I kept my tone light, commenting on small things to ease the silence between us. We chatted about his classes and plans for the weekend, although he seemed distracted by his thoughtful but brief responses. At one point, I reached for a photo frame on a high shelf. My skirt rode up slightly as I stretched. I looked over my shoulder and noticed that his eyes had widened. He looked down before quickly looking away. I felt a small shiver at his reaction, a sensation that I did not expect but that I could not deny. Just at that moment, I miscalculated my balance and fell a little before I could stabilize myself. I felt his strong hands on my waist, guiding me back to the vertical position. His touch was soft but firm, and when I looked at him, our eyes met, and we shared a moment of surprise and awareness. "Thank you," I murmured, a warmth in his gaze that felt completely new. "No problem," he answered quietly, his voice a little unsteady, as if he felt as unbalanced as I was. The air between us felt charged, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was no longer a simple morning. There was a connection, a closeness that had grown in that silent house, and it was as if we were both aware of it. Feeling the tacit bond between us, I couldn't help but notice how every accidental glance seemed to add to the unspoken energy that connected us. Finally, we finished tidying up, and I suggested that we take a break. We settled on the couch, drinking coffee and eating ice cream, both a little calmer than usual, maybe still processing the change that had come between us. I looked at him and found his gaze on me again, soft but firm, as if he was trying to say something that words couldn't capture. "So, you enjoy these lazy Saturdays?" I asked, breaking the silence with a soft smile, hoping to ease the tension. "Yes, I do," he responded with his warm voice. "It's nice to spend time like this, just us." I felt my heart skip a beat at his words. There was tenderness in the way he looked at me, a warmth that went beyond the usual family ties. I smiled at him, feeling the soft weight of his gaze as his words floated in the air. The silence between us was not awkward. It was something deeper, something intimate, like they had let us in on a secret that belonged only to us. "Well," I replied softly, "I guess it's nice to have a little company. This house can seem too big sometimes." I hadn't realized how true that was until now. With Tom gone, the usual hum of activity seemed absent, leaving an open space that Alex and I filled in ways I hadn't anticipated. His eyes held mine for a second longer than usual. "You're right," he murmured. It feels different." He softened as he continued. "It feels like we were actually spending time together, not just passing each other by." The warmth in his voice made me shiver, and I felt my pulse quicken. There we were, just the two of us, alone in the silence, and it seemed as if all the usual boundaries had been softened, allowing us to see each other in ways we hadn't before. We sat there, every sip of coffee a shared pause, every look a little spark. In a moment, I leaned back, resting my arm on the couch, and as I did so, my hand brushed his shoulder. The touch was light, involuntary, but it had a certain electricity. I felt him stay still next to me, as if he were as aware of it as I was. Our eyes met, and I found myself smiling with a bit of mischief in my gaze. Normally, "You're not that droopy," I said, trying to ease the tension but finding it almost impossible to ignore the warmth of his presence so close to mine. "I have finally left you speechless?" He chuckled, his eyes lighting up. "Maybe," he replied. The playful tone did little to hide the intensity underneath. "Or maybe I'm just seeing you differently today." His words were suspended in the air and I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. I wanted to respond, to laugh, but instead, I simply looked at him with my heart racing as I searched his gaze and found a softness that left me breathless. Unable to resist, I reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a nervous habit I couldn't shake. Alex's eyes followed the movement, and before I knew it, he reached out, and his fingers gently brushed mine as he took my hand. For a moment, we sat there, his hand warm against mine. Neither of us moved. The simple touch felt like an invitation, a silent realization that we were crossing into new territory. I felt a shiver of anticipation, but also an undeniable comfort. It was as if we were both exactly where we were supposed to be, Sarah said softly, her voice barely a whisper. The way she said my name sent a shiver down my spine, and I found myself leaning in. "Yes, Alex," I answered. My voice was as soft as hers, filled with all the unspoken emotions I had. I could barely keep it inside. I paused, his gaze searching mine. I have wanted to tell you for a while, alone. I just never knew how." My heart was pounding, the intensity of his gaze making it impossible to look away. I could feel the unspoken emotions swirling around us, and without thinking, I squeezed her hand gently. "You can tell me anything," I murmured deeply, my eyes never leaving hers. "It's just that you mean a lot to me, Sarah, more than I can really say. And today, seeing you like this, here with me, made me realize how much." A soft smile tugged at my lips, and I felt my own heart open, my defenses falling. "I feel it too, Alex, this connection between us. I can't ignore it." The words came out before I could stop them, but once I said them, I felt a strange relief, a sensation of freedom. It was the truth, and I couldn't deny it anymore. He came closer, his face inches from mine, his hand still holding mine, warm and firm. "I've wanted to be close to you for so long," he whispered, his voice full of sincerity. "I don't want this moment to end." In that moment, everything seemed to fit. I felt that all the walls had disappeared, leaving only the truth of our new feelings, the quiet intensity that united us. I leaned my hand, resting on his shoulder. My heart raced as our faces came closer, and then, softly, his lips met mine. The kiss was tender, full of the unexpressed emotions we had both repressed for so long. It was a kiss that spoke of understanding, of the moments shared, and the undeniable connection that had grown between us. Alex's fingers gently tightened around mine, as if he didn't want to let go, and the comfort of his touch settled me, making the outside world seem so distant and small. A soft silence took over us, each heartbeat in perfect rhythm with the other. My hand slid down to rest on his, and I could feel his pulse firm and strong under the tips of my fingers. I knew in that moment how much we both felt, and yet everything felt natural, as if we were destined to find ourselves here together in this quiet space we had created. His warm hand slowly approached as he moved a strand of hair from my face. The gesture was so simple, so loving, and I leaned into his touch, feeling a warmth that was deeper than any I had felt in a long time. "Sarah," he whispered, his voice filled with something deeper, something that told me I was so overwhelmed by this connection. I met his eyes, my heart racing as I waited for his next words. "It seems like this has been waiting to happen for so long," he said, his tone soft but full of sincerity. "I know it's complicated, and I don't want to rush anything, but I want you to know how much you matter, how much you mean to me." My heart swelled at his words. and I squeezed his hand in response, feeling the warmth of his palm against mine. "I feel the same, Alex," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't expecting this, but it feels so good. As we stood in the soft light of the living room, our gazes fixed in mutual understanding, a silent invitation seemed to pass between us. My hand, still in Alex's, gave a gentle squeeze, and we stood up together. Neither of us spoke, but everything seemed to be understood. Each step down the hall was guided by the silent emotion that had been simmering between us. We moved towards the bedroom, the soft hum of the night outside fading into the background. My heart raced. When we reached the door, his firm hand on mine, it seemed like uncharted territory. But the comfort of his presence at my side eliminated any lingering hesitation. Alex's fingers brushed my arm, sending a warm chill through me. In the bedroom, the room took on a new intimate atmosphere, softened by the glow of the streetlights from outside. I felt a wave of warmth wash over me as he gently guided me to sit on the edge of the bed. There was something tender but electrifying about the way he looked at me. His gaze traced every line of my face as if he were memorizing it. He knelt at my side, his eyes never leaving mine. "Sarah," he whispered, "I have never felt like this before. For anyone." My pulse accelerated, and I rested my hand on his cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin under my palm. I didn't whisper either. The honesty of that took me by surprise. For a moment, he rested his forehead against mine, his breath soft against my skin. I could feel the deep connection between us, as if every moment past had brought us here to this peaceful and perfect place. Without saying another word, he leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that was slow and full of emotion. His hands found my waist, firm and warm, as I pulled him closer. The world outside the bedroom ceased to exist. It was just us together in that moment. But just as Alex and I were caught up in the moment, wrapped in the warmth of each other's touch, we suddenly froze. The sound of the front door opening broke the silence, and my heart jumped into my throat. My husband was home. Panic flashed in Alex's eyes, and we pulled away, shaking as we tried to pull ourselves together. I smoothed my hair and straightened my clothes, looking around the room as if searching for a way to erase the evidence of the intimacy that had filled the space just moments before. I gestured for Alex to step back as I hurried to open the bedroom door. Trying to appear calm, my pulse was racing. My husband's footsteps echoed in the hallway, getting louder as he approached. I breathed deeply, hoping he didn't feel the tension in the air. He called me by name, his cheerful voice oblivious to the confusion that had just developed. I managed to answer him firmly and met him in the hallway, where he greeted me with a smile and a quick hug. Without realizing it, when I looked over his shoulder, I caught Alex's eye. He had retreated to the living room, looking so still, as if the moment had passed. The connection we had shared was replaced by the urgency of secrecy. My husband chatted about his day, completely unaware of what had almost happened. I did my best to respond naturally, but my mind kept wandering to the moments I had just shared with Alex, moments that had left me questioning everything I knew about myself. When my husband finally made his way to the kitchen, I silently joined Alex, who was standing by the door, still tense. We exchanged a quick glance, the tacit understanding between us so powerful as always. We knew we would have to be careful, that the boundaries we had almost crossed would all change if we were not cautious in the coming days. The weight of that night lingered heavily on my mind. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, excitement, confusion, and guilt, all fighting for control. Alex and I kept our distance, but the unspoken connection between us had not faded. It was just quieter, hidden beneath the surface. One afternoon, while I was tidying up the house, Alex approached me, his face serious but calm. He hesitated, then spoke with a gentleness that took me by surprise. I think that maybe we got carried away for a moment. We both needed something, but maybe it doesn't have to be that way. I nodded. His words gave me stability. "You're right," I responded softly. "I care about you, Alex, but I don't want to risk hurting the family we both love. Maybe it's better if we let this day be a beautiful moment in memory and focus on moving forward." He smiled, a sense of relief in his eyes. There was no tension or regret, just a mutual understanding. In that moment, I knew we had made the right decision. We had both found something special in each other, a closeness that was unusual, and maybe I didn't need to do anything more than that. Over time, things returned to normal. We shared smiles, laughter, and conversations, but with a new layer of respect. Our connection remained, but it was woven together in a way that felt safe and supportive. As the years passed, I looked back on that chapter with gratitude. not for what could have been, but for what it taught me about myself, about connection, and about finding the beauty in what we built. The experience brought us closer in a way that strengthened our family and gave me a renewed appreciation for the love and support that surrounded me.